My mentality is, again, I don't come from any real estate background, no business background, right? So, but what I do know is I knew soccer, right? And with soccer, I made money from everything around soccer, not necessarily my contracts, right? It was the boot deals, it was the advertisement deals. Those things are what made me money, right? So when I looked at real estate, I'm like, okay, like I'm transacting, but what's around the transaction? So I'm a big believer and I own everything I touch: escrow, title, mortgage.
It's an absolute pleasure to be back on the Real Estate Syndication Show. My name is Josh McCallen, host of Capital Hacking and guest host of your favorite podcast today. Whitney, thanks for having me here as always. Loved this show. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Take some actionable steps away from meeting Mr. Cyrus Mohseni. This is a gentleman out of California who has really cracked the code, if you want to say that. He's a guy in the world of real estate brokerage, real estate investing, is just a novice now getting into real estate syndication. But there's tidbits you and I can take. If we're in the space of raising capital and putting on events, wait to hear some of the tidbits he does to grow his coaching business, which is really it's actually national. And he's going to talk a little bit about that. He currently today is known as a trainer, a real estate investment trainer all over the country. His company is the Keystone Team and the Butterfly Effect Mastermind. You can also hear his podcast, Cyrus's, and his podcast. I think you're going to love the show. Take a look at the one major tidbit that I took away and wrote down and I'm going to use, and it relates to how to find the phone numbers of target assets that you want to buy in whatever city you are currently prospecting it. I think you're going to love that little tidbit. Spoiler alert, it has to do with Redx, and he's going to give us a free code to use it. And I love his references to owning the businesses around the core business he's in, this whole kind of halo effect he creates in his investment strategy. So many tidbits you and I can put into action right away. You're going to love this episode. And thank you for being part of the community. It is an absolute honor to have you on the big show. Cyrus, welcome to the Real Estate Syndication Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited about this, man. This will be fun.
It is fun. It's fun to get to know new people. I always call these podcasts like an audio mastermind. So a lot to learn, short amount of time. Why? Because you're like a get it done guy. I know that already. We love to just get our sense. And for those of us who haven't met you yet, could you just tell us a little more about you and what kind of work you do and how you're connected to real estate investing?
Yeah. I mean, I can give you real background or I can go the short thing, but I'll tell you a little bit. So I used to play soccer for a living. I got in a car accident about 7 years ago. And when that happened, my whole life changed. My game plan originally was to play soccer, become a professional soccer player, play professional soccer. Then after that, once I was around 40, retire, become a coach. That was my whole game plan. What ended up happening is about 7 years ago, I got in a car accident that shifted and I couldn't play soccer anymore. So I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? During every single off season, I went through some sort of school. Like one year I went to Italian class, another year I went to French class. I failed both of those. I always say the same story. But then this specific off season, I had gone through real estate school, not because I wanted to be a real estate agent, but because I was coming home to come play for a team here in LA. And when I signed, I was going to buy a house. That was my game plan. So I said, well, I should learn about real estate, right? So I started getting my real estate license and then I got in my car accident, never ended up signing with the club because I got in my car accident. So then I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? And I said, well, I guess I'm going to get into real estate. I never went to college. Right? 2 days after I graduated high school, I played professional soccer. So for me, it was like one of those things where I was like, what am I going to do? I guess I got to get into real estate, right? Ends up that real estate's been very good to me. I love it. I always thought real estate was boring until I realized I'm playing Monopoly every day, just adult Monopoly. And so I ended up becoming one of the top real estate agents in the country very quickly. I'm now one of the top real estate trainers in the country as far as transactionally, as far as getting into real estate. and I'm a huge real estate investor on the other side. So I just, I believe if I'm selling real estate and I'm telling other people they need to be buying it, like, why am I not buying it myself? So that was a
So
big
good.
part of what I was doing.
Yeah, that's actually a great and not most it sounds like you have a lot of active investing and also brokerage, it sounds like. So a lot of your backstory
Correct.
is real estate license brokerage. Are you still actively transacting real estate that way for other clients?
Not really. Like friends and family, super close friends and family. Yes. Other than that, my agents take care of most of that. I'm really focused in on the real estate training, the development of the agent. All of my agents close 1 to 2 deals a month on minimum. Our average price point out here is pretty high. It's around 1.2 million. So
Right.
so we, our agents do very well. And then I coach agents all across the country, which is really what I love, right? As I've kind of marinated on who I am as a person and like going into like, I think life's an inward journey versus an outward journey, right? And as I marinate on that, what I've realized is that like I love coaching and I always have, right? I mean, from the
Yeah.
first point, like what I told you is I wanted to be a soccer coach after I was done playing soccer. So I've always loved training and loved coaching. And my favorite thing is to see one of my agents go from never closing a deal to closing 30, 40, 50, 100 million in real estate, and then being able to help them and educate them on, okay, now where are we going to go and invest this money? Like you're going to be closing all these deals. Now let's actually create residual income versus going and buying a brand new car where
Oh,
it
such a
depreciates, right?
such a powerful message. So as we're listening to you, I'm starting to use a framework in my mind to understand your business design, and I love it. So at the top of your business design, you have several brands, and we're about to start talking about
Correct.
some of the brands, and each of them do a different thing, it looks like. So
Correct.
yeah, the group that sells and transacts real estate, what is that actual business called? Is that the
Uh,
Keystone?
the Keystone team. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Keystone team is the brokerage side of things. My mentality is, again, I don't come from any real estate background, no business background, right? So, but what I do know is I knew soccer, right? And with soccer, I made money from everything around soccer, not necessarily my contracts, right? It was the boot deals, it was the advertisement deals. Those things are what made me money, right? So when I looked at real estate, I'm like, okay, like I'm transacting, but what's around the transaction? So I'm a big believer and I own everything I touch, escrow, title, mortgage, right? Like I have specifically placed myself and vertically integrated myself in each of these spaces because I'm feeding into that as a real estate agent, right? I'm feeding into every single part of the transaction. So why not own every single part of the transaction as well?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things yeah, I love that. I call that capital hacking because you're just
Yep.
the one transaction is creating the transaction is creating the second transaction.
Exactly.
And that's the velocity that happens. And you see it in the biggest, wealthiest families and the biggest companies. It's like yeah, like you said, they get a residual off everything. So smart,
Yeah,
smart, smart.
exactly.
So then there's a podcast in your life, and then there's a
Correct.
mastermind in your life. Is that the three different categories of your life?
Yeah. If I had to put them, those are three different lanes that we play in. Yeah. I
So tell us more
so
about the other two then. The
So
podcast.
really like the podcast and the mastermind and that whole thing is kind of all in the development and the training side of my business,
Yeah.
like the real estate training thing, right? I'm a very big believer in abundance mindset where like everybody wins. Everybody wins if we help, high tide raises all boats, right? So for me, I'm a huge believer in sharing literally everything. I will tell everybody how have done everything because I knew nothing about this space 7 years ago. And it's completely changed my life. I mean, I'm telling you, like I paid my mom's house off a couple years ago. Like my life is set in a different way and it allows me to do what I do. I mean, I'm wearing USC gear because I coach here at women's USC women's soccer now. And it allows me to do this. My lifestyle has completely changed because of the fact that I've been able to get into this space. So if I can give that to other people, I mean, how cool is that, right? Like you're actually
It's true.
changing people. You're changing, like, it's so cool because I'm like continually changing the world, right? Because if I could positively impact somebody, they change their financial situation in their lives. Are you kidding me? That's generations change. That's not just that one person. That is so powerful. So the real estate training side I'm so passionate about that because of the fact that like I'm literally taking people that like we're transacting at XYZ level and taking them to the next level, or transacting at zero and taking them to that next level. Like
So
that changes their lives.
it absolutely does. And I love the idea of the incremental impact on all others and in the world. So let's dig in a little more, and then we'll probably wrap up after we go
Yeah.
through this training portion. Is that what is called the butterfly effect?
Yeah, correct. So I'm obsessed with butterflies. I have like butterfly bracelet. I'm like, and it's the symbolism of the butterfly, right? The symbolism of the butterfly is a couple different things. One of them is I believe that in the butterfly effect, in the butterfly flaps its wings here, can create a hurricane on the other side of the world. Like one small task, right, is actually how we change the world, right? Whether it's a positive impact, whether I'm saying, hey man, I like your shirt, blah, 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 and that makes you feel happier. And then you go do the same thing, and then it just grows and grows and grows, right? And so that's the share of that knowledge, right? That the share of that knowledge to be able to help one person go to the next thing, and then they're going to be able to help the next. That is just an amazing thing. And then the other side of the butterfly that I love so much is the fact that, butterflies, caterpillars go through physical pain to become butterflies. Like in their cocoon, they go through physical pain when they're breaking out and they're doing this. And that's so true in our lives, right? Like we go through this actual pain and suffering. That's usually when we grow the most. And I've had a lot of times in my life, like for instance, when my career ended with soccer, like that was a horrible time in my life, not just physically, but mentally. But now I'm here, right? And it's part of the butterfly effect.
Yeah. And what I was impressed by, what you and I talked about before the show started, is the Butterfly Effect Mastermind Tour is not just in California. I mean, you're going to be on our side of the coast here. We're on the
Yeah.
East Coast. You'll be in New Jersey, outside of DC. Now, I was asking you about that. And since you a moment ago said you're an abundance mindset, you got to tell me, you're going to put on an event in New Jersey, let's say, and you're going to bring in 250 people to hear about the butterfly program, this work you do in real estate brokerage. How are you going to gather that many people? Is there that many people in New Jersey that already know you, or do you have other methodologies to gather that many people?
A little bit of both, right? I think that your network is very powerful. I think where I had a mentor that was in the music industry, and he gave me this advice when I first got in the real estate industry. I called him. I was like, "Yo, MZ," and he's an African guy, and he goes, "What's up, brother?" And I'm like, "Hey, man, I need you to connect me with XYZ." And when I say these people, like these are some of the biggest music artists in the urban hip hop world. There's not just, and so I specialize in, so I called him and I'm like, yo, I need you to connect me with these people. And no. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Yo, I'm in real estate now. He's like, they're not going to buy real estate. He goes, here's my advice for you. Fly across the country, meet every single top real estate agent that's transacting in those markets. Go have lunch with them. He goes, that's what you have to do. He goes, do not do this. And so that's what I did. So what I did was I flew across the country. I met all of the top agents in every top market. We went to lunch. I hung out with them. I know them now. They're some of my best friends, very honestly, And so now when I sit there and I say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go on tour and I'm going to go into XYZ cities. I know I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Michael, I'm coming out to New Jersey and we're going to put on an event. I need your help. And Michael's going to sit there and be like, yo, Cyrus, yes, I'll support you because everything that he needs, I will help him. And he knows that, right? And because it's that collaborative mindset, collaboration over competition. And that's really what we're doing. So it's a little bit of both. I have a huge social media following. I have a big following in the real estate space. And then combine that with my people in each city. That's how we're going to gather that amount of people. We're going to have some pretty killer events.
That's awesome, buddy. Very excited. So in that event, maybe somebody's listening now, they're going to your website. Would you tell us the best website while we're thinking about it? What's the best website to find you?
Yeah, cyrusmohseni.com, CyrusMohseni.com.
So they hit that website and they see Butterfly Effect Mastermind Tour, and they might register right now. What is the cost to come spend time with you for a few hours?
Zero, free.
So
zilch.
That's a winning price. Okay, so they're doing that.
So
what's
that's
it going to be like?
That's a big part of what I want access, right? I think that all of these coaches out in the industry, it's $500, it's $600, it's $1,000 to come to my event. Like for me, like I just want to provide the access and the knowledge and let you guys grow, right? What are they going to get? It's going to be one of the highest level real estate events. I think that's going to be put on. It's pure, again, I'm abundance mindset. I'm not like, come to this event, I'm going to upsell you to go to this other thing. Like, I don't play that game. Like, yo, like if I'm going to go to an event, I want all of the knowledge. I want actionable things to take into my business to grow my business. And that's what we're going to put out. I have some of the best agents in the country in each specific market that will be there with me as well. So
Wow.
we're going to interview the top agents in that market on how they're getting their business, what they're doing, so on and so forth. And then on top of that, I actually have a keynote that I've never given that we're going to give out there. And, but just to put in perspective, I spoke at 39 real estate events last year. I've never given this keynote. It's how to double your listings.
Wow.
Um, and it's a system that I've used to grow my business to close 100 deals a year, 100 million transactions. This is what I do on every single one of my listings. And every single one of my listings, I have a standard that I have to take another listing. If I don't take another listing, then I'm not winning on that. So
All right. So those are some powerful things. Hopefully that reaches the right people here today listening. So let's jump into another bigger part of your life, and that is you're an actual investor. So we talked
yeah,
about the transactional side. What categories of real estate, commercial, residential, multifamily, what are you investing in? And are investors joining you? Do you do syndications like this show? I'll let you take it from there.
yeah, yeah. So what we're doing is we do a couple different things. So I started again, when I got into real estate, I knew nothing about real estate, nothing about investing. Then I started buying all these single families. I own a bunch in the Midwest. We're growing into other areas all over the country, but I own the majority of my stuff was been in the Midwest. So I started buying single families. And then, as it goes, this year is to buy 100 units this year. And then what we're going to do is at the same time as that, I'm doing development, real estate development, as far as we're building 125 residential units with commercial underneath those 125 residential units as well. That's my first really big development project. And we will do that using LPs and JVs.
Yeah, and will you set it up as one of those 506c syndication private placements, or will you design it in a different way?
I think that's kind of, we're trying to figure that out, as far as what we're going to do as far as the 125 unit development. But this project we just got it signed off with the mayor. So we'll be starting that process soon.
And on your team, have you designed a team like who's going to operate that for you? Is that something you do yourself, or do you have a teammate?
No, sir. Sure. I way above my head, way above my pay grade. I'm a big, so that's also like a key to my, like, you asked me like, okay, what is it? Like the key to my success is I'm very good at building teams. That's probably one of my biggest strengths. I'm very good at finding the person that does the best at that and say, okay, hey, I'm not good at this. You're very good at this. Let's put this together because I'm very good at this and let's grow together. Right. I have a director of development and he's got a degree in real estate development from the University of Georgetown. Very good at what he does, has managed a huge amount of commercial portfolio, has done a bunch of development. So I said, hey, look, you're doing this. I'm doing this over here. I have an opportunity. Do you want to do this together? Right. And then we put the team together around that.
No, it's great. It's great. Okay. So I think we've gotten a lot out of your focus and your positive energy and the fact that you really dug in at 2 feet. Tell me more about the future for you and your business. And so we have the three businesses. You have the podcast that we haven't asked you about. You have the Butterfly Effect Mastermind. You have the Keynote or the Keystone team. Where will you be 5 years from now with your companies? What do you plan on doing?
Yeah. I think like Keystone runs itself, right? Like the real estate transactional company runs itself. It really does. I love it and I enjoy it. So I'm involved with it every day. If I stepped away, I'm a big believer in if you're a business owner, like you got to own a business. You're either a business owner or you're self-employed. Like if you're self-employed, you to be in it every day. If you're a business owner, you can step away, you can tie them on, the business will keep growing. Right. And that's what Keystone is. The Butterfly Effect Mastermind and the podcast are in the same boat for me as far as the training space, and the sharing space. I think that I'll probably be leaning in more on that side. as well as the investment side of things. Those two things are just it's my playground. It's my fun. It's my enjoyable thing. So 5 years from now, I probably will be heavily on the trainer side, as well as growing to bigger syndications, bigger units. Again, like I said, as I've grown my company, as I've grown my investment side of things, like I went from buying these little tiny single families to buying, multifamily, to buying like 20 units. And then I'm like, okay. And as we're growing, we'll start leaning in more of that side.
And what advice would you have for those listening today that want to follow some of your footsteps as far as being an investor? What is your current technique today to find deals?
Okay. Two questions. So current technique and advice. My best advice is I think that most people need to I have this concept, visualize, map it out, and execute it. So visualize it. Everything that you can accomplish in life goes with these three things. If you visualize it first, then you got to map it out, then you got to execute, right? A lot of people stay in the visualization of things. A lot of people are like, I want to be an investor, and they're like, yeah, this is great. I want to be an investor. And then they never spend the time to map it out, or they don't know how to map it out, right? And if you don't know how to map it out, or you don't have the time to, find someone that does, right? So for me, it's either finding that person that knows how to map things out, or that you can place into that has done it before, that you can learn from, right? So finding a mentor, and then execute. Like that's the number one thing. Most people don't get into it because they're scared. But like I didn't know anything about investing. I learned it as I went. Yeah, I've lost money. Yeah, I've done this. But what I also did was, I know I didn't lose as much money as I probably would have, because I find people that are very good at what they do, and I give them a call and I'm like, yo, I don't know how to do this. What's the deal? What do we need to do? How can we do it together? Right. And that company, or that person is going to sit there and be like, yo, Cyrus, okay, hey, great. Let's do it. Let's figure out a way to make it work. Right. So that's one side of things. How do I find my deals? I am like completely obsessed with this. I also have a full team of people now that are calling in what I call like bird dogging, right? Like they're calling these different areas that I know I want to be in, and we're doing heavy marketing in that area. But you can do it yourself. Like just using the tool Redx, which is a platform that you can get data. We use it in the real estate transactional side of things, because it'll give you expireds, for sale by owner, people, all of these phone numbers, just by using that data. And if you go to Redx, I think it's redx.com/Cyrus, or redx.com/Cyrus Mohseni, like it'll waive the, what do you call that? The fee to join, the setup fee, but they have something called geo leads. Are you kidding me? This is probably the most underrated thing. Like all you have to do is place a pin in the middle of the city that you want to invest in. You go online and you find all these people that, oh, they're saying XYZ city is the place. Okay. Put a pin in the middle of that city, and it's going to give you every number around to every single house in that area. Pick up the phone and start dialing, right? Like, I don't think anything comes without work. And so that's what I did. Like before I had the people that were doing it, I was on the phones calling everyone in the neighborhoods. Hey, would you like to cash offer for your property? No. Okay. Hey, F you, screw you, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, you know how many deals I bought? I bought a house by doing that for $6,000. $6,000. Now it's in the middle of freaking Indiana, and but I bought it, put 40 grand into it, and I make $1,000 a month on rent.
Wow. I think we have to dissect this for 1 minute, because of all the things you've said. This is so actionable. And I'm going to repeat it. Redx, Redx is what I'm hearing you say, right?
Yeah. Redx. Yep.
We can waive the fee if we use your name in the checkout. We can go to geo leads, choose the city, for example, Destin, Florida, which I love, Destin, and put a dot somewhere in that area. And then what will it do? It'll just give you all the homeowners in that area, or all the property owners, correct?
Correct. It'll give you all of their phone numbers, all of the data that you need, literally their phone numbers, their addresses, everything. And all you got to do is call them and start talking to them.
It is pretty powerful. If that's what you want to get started on, just do it. That's very actionable.
Yeah. I think the link is redx.com. And then Cyrus Mohseni /Cyrus Mohseni. If you go on my Instagram and you click in like the links, it'll come up there. I'll send you the link so you can put it in the show notes or what. But yeah, that's
wonderful.
Like super actionable.
Super actionable. And then from that, you started buying those properties. Now, how did you
Correct.
capitalize or financially provide for those acquisitions? Were you sitting on some money you had held, or did you use
So
other people's money?
yeah, so my rule was sell 3, buy 1, right? So sell 3 properties, buy 1 property. And that's what I was doing at first. And then after I got enough, I put them into a portfolio loan, cash out refi, and then I just kept doing it.
And that whole strategy, what put that in your mind and in your heart? Who helped you break the barrier of seeing into this
Yeah,
looking glass?
my business partner's a very like wise person on the transactional side. He was an investor for years before, lost a lot of money in 2008, grew it back, right? Jack has been very pivotal for that. But I read and I listen and I study. Like again, in soccer, we watch film after every single game. Um, we look at, we study the other team before that we go play them, right? Like we are studying the game just as much as we're playing the game. If you're going to be a top level player, it's the same thing in real estate. It's the same thing in business. Why am I
Critical.
not spending multiple hours a week studying, right? Like just learning. You should, the minute you stop learning in any business is the minute you lose.
I love it. It's been great getting to know you. I just want to thank you from all of us here at the Real Estate Syndication Show. What what more did you want to cover that we might not have hit yet? And how can we follow up with you?
Like I said, starting, you got to start, you got to go, and then just keep going. Like you're going to take hits, you're going to take quote unquote losses, but at the end of the day, like you can learn from all of those L's, right? What's that learning the L from loss to learn, right? And then just keep growing and just keep going. And then as far as like connecting with me, the best way is you can connect with me on my website, or which again is cyrusmohseni.com, or on Instagram, instagram.com/Cyrus Andre, Cyrusandre. I promise you, anyone that messages me, I message everybody back on Instagram. I will get back to you. It may take me a month, it may take me a week, it may take me 24 hours, but I will get back to you, I promise. So if you have any questions, just reach out. Love
You're the
sharing.
man. It's a great pleasure to get to know you. And yes, one of our resorts hopefully could host some of your masterminds. We have them outside of DC.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thank you so much for being on the
Awesome.
show.
Killer. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us again today. I hope that you have learned a lot from the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're telling your friends about the Real Estate Syndication Show and how they can also build wealth in real estate. You can also go to lifebridgecapital.com and start investing today.